Alright, hello, welcome to the video. So I've been wanting to make another video talking about the early NBA season. I already did one with the Lakers, so I want to talk about some other teams as well. But I don't know, it was hard for me to try to choose just one to dedicate to and just talk about them. So I decided I'm just going to spin a wheel, and whatever team it lands on, I'm going to have to say something about. If it's going to be a team that I don't have much to say about because I haven't been paying attention to them, or I just don't find them interesting, or maybe I just don't have anything to say about them, I still will have to say one thing, and I'll just go on to the next one. But we might land on a team that I have a lot to talk about, and that could take the whole video. So yeah, let's do this. It's going to be some impromptu analysis. All right, got the Bucks. I don't have a lot to talk about with the Bucks, I guess. I mean, they're the best team in the league. I believe they only have 2 losses now. Oh no, they only have 1. I thought I saw them losing it. Okay. They only have 1 loss, but also Giannis and Drew are both out, and Chris Middleton for that matter. So I don't know if they are going to survive much longer without packing up any losses, I guess. I'm not sure how long Giannis is supposed to be out, but they're 10-1 right now at the top of the East. You know, they were my pick coming into the season for having the best record in the league, so off to a good start there. I'm not too worried about them, to be honest. You know, even with these injuries at the beginning of the season, I think once they get everybody back, especially like Joe Ingles hasn't even played at all for them yet. They do have like some question marks with the rotation, what exactly they're going to nail it down to by playoff time, as far as some of those guys coming off the bench and maybe those wings in the starting lineup alongside Drew and Chris. But yeah, Bucks might be my finals favorite, to be honest, in the East. Probably would be, if you ask me right now. Maybe to win the whole thing, you know, East and West. All right, next team. No lie, landed right on the Nuggets. So I'm going to talk about the Nuggets now. All right, so Denver right now is 7th in point differential in the league, and we're 8-3. We're tied at the 3 seed. It's good to see Jamal Murray, you know, coming back into form. He has started off like about kind of where I thought he would, I guess. Maybe a little bit better. It's good to see that he still has those qualities, like still has the Jamal Murray-esqueness about him. Like there's been plenty of examples this year already where there's like a end of the shot clock situation and Jamal just has to throw up this insane shot and it just goes in like routinely. There was even one that the other night where he gets caught where he doesn't have a dribble anymore a lot, and so he'll just be kind of, you know, dancing around trying to shake the defender just with a pivot foot, and then do this like spin twirl thing at the end and completely turn around mid coming up with his shot and kind of do this fadeaway 3 thing. So I've seen him do that twice this season, and that's kind of like just a Jamal thing to do in the past already. But one of them, you know, just went straight in and it counted. The other one went in as well, but they called it travel, which I didn't go back and like, you know, freeze frame it and look like, oh, was this a travel? Just the fact that both of them went in and like it was like, okay. So yeah, we're still getting Jamal Murray moments like that. You know, the things that he needs to work on to get back into form, conditioning, being able to play longer stretches without getting tired, get a little bit more into like a flow with the offense and with the game, making quicker decisions, you know, stuff like that, which I'm sure will come as he starts to find his footing again. And he's like notoriously a really bad early season player. That's been the story every year of his career so far, that he gets off to a slow start. So both those things in mind, you know, the injury, not having played a game in over a year, and then his early season struggles that are already expected. With both those things in mind, this has been a really good start. And Michael Porter Jr. is shooting like over 50. I don't know where he's at right now, but there's been a few points where he's been shooting over 50% on the season. So he's at 49 right now, 49% from 3. And it's like not surprising is the weird thing about it. Like I had the idea recently to do this just because a lot of my friends and, you know, people, I feel like if I were to tell them about MPJ and talk about MPJ to them about how good he is, or like how good he is at the things that he does, you know, they might think I'm exaggerating or not, you know, understand it fully. Like I just want to literally go through and cut up every game he's ever played in the NBA. I want to find every single 3 he's ever attempted and just compile them all together, one after another. It's just so you can see how good of a freaking shooter this guy is. It's insane. Like I don't even think the percentages tell you the full picture because you don't know what those looks look like what those shots even, how they presented themselves. Were they wide open? Were they just plainly catch and shoot? Like he does do that a lot, but what he does somehow even more of, and so, like it feels like he's even better when he does it this way, is when he, you know, catches a kick out from Jokic or something, and there's like a defender closing out on him. He'll just pump fake and do this like one dribble side step back 3 basically. Yeah, and he just drains those routinely. So yeah, happy to see Porter still being like a 6'11" Klay Thompson, and that's not even really an exaggeration. That's the type of shooter he's been so far in his career. What's his career numbers? Man, I keep closing pages before I get what I need out of him. Yeah, so on his career, he's shooting 43% from three. In his three like actual full seasons, because I'm taking out last year because he only played 9 games, and he was dealing with an injury in his back for all 9 of those games. So it's a small sample size. He only shot in the 20s on that one. So in his first season, 55 games, he shot 42%. Second season was 61 games, he shot 45%. And then this season in 10 games, he's shooting 49%. So yeah, pretty crazy. All right, so other surprises about this year, though, I want to go into those. Trying to get all my Nuggets thoughts out here. I had a really visceral reaction to the DeAndre Jordan signing this offseason, as did a lot of other people. But I've been pleasantly surprised, not gonna lie. He has looked better than I was expecting. And I think he works okay as a backup center to Jokic in some matchups. It's passable and it's fine. So yeah, I haven't just completely hated his time on the floor like I was halfway expecting to. So that was a good surprise. What else? Christian Braun is really freaking good. Like, for those of you who don't know, I've talked about before, but the past 3 years now, watching the Nuggets in the draft, I have made like a note of like who I would take at the Nuggets pick if I was the GM and compare it to, who they actually take. So the first year I did that, we ended up taking Zeke Naji at the 22nd pick, and I would have taken Jaden McDaniels, which Zeke turned out better than I was anticipating. Like I definitely do like that pick, getting Zeke there, but I probably, Jaden McDaniels was the right pick. I think most people would agree with that. So far, the early returns, I think, point a little bit more towards Jaden McDaniels. And then the second one was the 26th pick of the draft, I want to say, and we took Bones Highland. I would have taken Cam Thomas, who ended up going the very next pick to Brooklyn. And so the early returns on that is definitely Bones Highland over Cam Thomas, that's for sure. So I was wrong on that one. And then this season, for the 21st pick in the draft, we took Christian Braun out of Kansas, which that was actually my pick as well. So we lined up, and I was expecting Christian Braun to kind of get thrown into that mix of guys that aren't really breaking the rotation all the time. Like, they can on any given night, but they're not guaranteed. Like Davon Reed and Zeke Naji, maybe Vlatko Cancar you can throw in there, but he's even less, gets less minutes. I kind of expected to see Christian Braun somewhere in there, just because Malone usually favors the older players. But in game 2, he got some time in game 1, but in game 2 he was like in the rotation, and he has not looked back since. He's still been in the rotation this whole time, and he is a confusingly good defender. It's surprising how athletic and how fast he actually is, because when you just look at him, you're not expecting that to be the case. But he's actually very, very athletic and just stays in front of the ball handler really, really well. And just almost every single move that he makes, like mirroring the offensive player, just he ends up staying up in his grill, staying up in his business, continuing to bother the offensive player. He doesn't foul too much, at least just according to my eye test. I haven't looked at numbers, but seems like he can avoid fouling pretty well while still getting a good contest. And like, I'm not even too concerned. I don't even know what he's shooting on the season. I don't think he's shooting that well, but from what I've seen, I don't hate what I've seen on the offensive end either. Some shots might not be falling, but like, I'm fine. I know he's going to be at least a league average 3-point shooter. That's if he's playing the defense like he is and just get catch and shoot opportunities and make a decent clip of them, like, I'm fine with that. So yeah, he's shooting about league average right now from 3, 35.7%. Field goal percentage is 45.5. So he missed his first couple layups that he had, or at least one of them. But since then, he's looked really good, absorbing like contact on his layups to the rim and still making them. So yeah, I've really liked what I've seen from Christian Braun, and I'm not mad at all that he's in the rotation now. I think Davon Reed would be the guy that would be in his place if Braun wasn't there. Bruce Brown is playing a lot of point guard, which I wasn't expecting him to be more of a ball handler for us on the offensive end. But we use him a lot of different ways. It's fun to see him get integrated into this team. He's shooting a lot better than I thought Bruce Brown would. Like, not just from the corners. I've been seeing him make quite a few from the wings and stuff too. Let's see where he's at. Yeah, he's shooting 40% from 3 right now on over 3 attempts per game. So I don't know if that will sustain, because last year, people were saying like, oh yeah, he is a good shooter. Just look at his numbers last year. He shot 40% from 3. But that was on 1.3 attempts per game, and the vast majority of those are wide open in the corner. I don't know how much of that number to believe or how much of that number would actually translate. But so far he's looked good and just, taking threes from anywhere. But yeah, and he's been the best defender on the Nuggets this whole season for sure. Aaron Gordon has been a tad bit, I would say, disappointing on that end, to be honest. But he's kind of known to be pretty inconsistent, wishy-washy, up and down throughout the year. So offensively, Aaron Gordon's looked pretty good, to be honest. KCP has plugged in exactly like how I thought he would. Just straight up 3-and-D, being a good shooter, pairing well with any lineup really, just because he's like the perfect archetype of an NBA player to plug into any system. So yeah, he's been good too. Let's finally get to the big man in the middle. I know some people might look at his numbers this year and think he's fallen off a little bit just because he put up 2 historic seasons last couple years. But I'm not saying I 100% expected this, but I was anticipating maybe this happening. You know, what we've seen from him so far this year, which is Jokic kind of becoming his old self again before the Nuggets were faced with all these injuries. So like 3 years ago, where he barely, like there's some games where he doesn't even take 10 shots. And I don't know. I just think that's who he is. I think that's what he's more comfortable with. Like if he's not pressured into, if the game doesn't require him to seek out his own shot and put up some more shots, you know, attack offensively, then I don't think he will. I think he'll just very happily catch the ball, stand there on the block, you know, take a couple dribbles, wait for the double team to come, and when it does, just never look for a shot, just constantly kick it out to the open man. Or even, you know, even when there's not a double coming, just stand there and wait for somebody to cut, and just, you know, that's the way he wants to play, it seems like. He just wants to catch the ball and then set somebody else up. So right now he's averaging 21, 10, and 9, which, you know, that's a great stat line right there. The one thing I'm a little bit surprised about is the rebounding. I thought that wouldn't go so far down like it has. You know, he's only at 9.9 per game, so just under 10. But last year he averaged 14 rebounds a game, which was, you know, more than he ever has. In the past, he's had 11 a couple times. Yeah, 3 of his seasons he had 11, and his other 2 seasons where he was playing consistent minutes, he had 10. So I thought, yeah, we would see a little bit more of that. You know, him getting a little bit more rebounds that he has. I need to pay attention more to the reason why that is, if defensively or like just the game plan, because I know we have a new defensive coordinator this season, obviously with Ryan Saunders, the former head coach of the Timberwolves. So I'm sure that might have something to do with it, just where he's placed on defense. A lot of times when the ball comes off the rim, like what the game plan is, if he's already headed to the middle of the floor, or if he's the one who's supposed to be in there vacuuming up rebounds. Because I feel like we're using him less in the drop this year is probably what it is. We have him more up to the screen, up to the level of the screen, because where Jokic is at his best on defense is the deflections that he gets in passing lanes and stuff. He is leading the league in all big men this season in deflections per game, because, you know, he's not a traditional rim protector by any means, but what he can do for you on the defensive end is get his hand in passing lanes and, you know, make smart calculated decisions on when to go for balls and stuff like that. So I guess in order to bring that out the most, it makes sense to bring him all the way up to the level of the screen and, you know, not in drop, not all the way back towards the basket. So when the ball comes off the rim, he's just not in the paint as much as he was last year, is probably what it is, would be my guess. But going back to the scoring thing, I'm not too worried about it, because I know this is probably good, because the last 2 seasons in the playoffs, he was so worn out by the end of the season because of how much he had to carry, you know, of the Nuggets workload those entire seasons, you know, where he was taking the most shots every game, he was getting the most assists, he was getting the most rebounds, he was doing literally everything. So, you know, this year, giving him a little bit more of a back seat where he can trust his teammates offensively. Like, he's still leading our team in points, don't get me wrong, but he's definitely delegating a lot more. Like, he's a lot more comfortable getting the ball, looking for somebody else, you know, feeding the hot hand, that type of thing, and just putting it on, turning it on when he needs to, which he's still very capable of. It works very well. Just based off of the game the other night, who were we playing? The Pacers. He was in very bad foul trouble that entire game. He had 5 fouls by 12, and he had only played 12 minutes in the game, and he had 5 fouls. And so then he played basically the entire fourth quarter, or most of it, you know, like the last 8-9 minutes. I think he ended up with 20 minutes on the game, but he ended up with 24 points. So, because like in that last stretch, the Nuggets were down, and he just basically put the team on his back and was just, you know, getting to the basket, scoring, hitting some mid-range jumpers as well, or, you know, whatever you want to call him for Jokic. He doesn't really jump, but so yeah, he was able to kind of manage that game down the stretch and give the Nuggets the win. So yeah, I'm not too worried about the Nuggets. The one thing that does kind of worry me is the defense, but I think we'll get that under wraps and just be, as long as we're passable defensively, we'll be fine. I think, you know, as long as we're around maybe the top 10 to 15 range would be ideal. You know, because if the Nuggets don't have the top offense in the league, it's honestly going to be a little bit of an underachievement. Like, the Nuggets, there's no reason why the Nuggets shouldn't have the best offense in the NBA. They have the pieces, they have the talent in order to be that. The one team I would be a little bit worried about would be maybe Phoenix. I think Utah will cool off. You know, maybe if Golden State gets it together. And I'm going to talk about these other teams too that I'm bringing up in passing. Don't worry, that will be coming out soon. But yeah, that's probably enough for this video though. Got to hear my Nuggets thoughts and a tiny little blip on the Bucks. So yeah, Nuggets, best offense in the league. Just get a passable defense. We can be in the finals, playing the Bucks maybe. Stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.